Hi everyone, Miss Curdy here again. We're going to do a quick lesson on multiplying by multiples of 10. So before we move on, let's talk about what the word multiples of 10 means. A multiple is another name we can give the products that we would get when we multiply 10 by any number. A very quick way to find your multiples is just to skip count by whatever number you're trying to find multiples of. So you've actually been naming multiples of 10 for many, many years anytime you skip count by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and so on. All of those numbers past 100, 110, 120, 130, all of those are multiples of 10. So something that we already know is we already know that every multiple of 10 ends in a 0. And here I've listed out a couple just to remind us of that. We also know that when multiplying a number by 10, you can just take the other factor and annex a 0 on it. So we know that 8 times 10 is going to be that 8 with that 0 annexed on to give us 80. 5 times 10 is 50, and we're always taking that factor and just annexing on that 0. Something that may be new to us is that when we're multiplying by a multiple of 10, so 10, 20, 30, 40, we can temporarily remove that 0 so that we just have a basic fact left, solve that basic fact, and then stick that 0 back on to give us our final answer. So we're actually able to solve problems like this, like 60 times 5. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to take that 0 off just for a moment and use the original fact. So once that 0 is off, my basic fact just becomes 6 times 5. And then we can solve that, and I know that 6 times 5 is going to give me 30. And then my next step is to take that 30, and then I want to annex that 0 back on, add it back on. And then I've got my final answer of 300. So now I'm able to solve really large problems like 60 times 5 equals 300. So just to review, whenever we have a multiple of 10, 60, 70, 80, even 90, we can pop that 0 off for a moment, solve our basic fact, and then at the end, pop that 0 back on to give us our final answer. So you can flip over to the back side of this, and you're going to see that we've got several problems to go ahead and solve. So I'm going to do the first couple with you, and then you'll have a chance to pause the video and try these out on your own. So when I see 60 times 3, I'm going to look at that basic fact, pop that 0 off for a moment, and solve 6 times 3, which is going to give me 18. And then for my final answer, I'm going to pop that 0 back on. I'm going to annex it back on, and then I get 180. Same thing here. I'm going to pull out the basic fact by popping that 0 off. 5 times 5 is 25. And then to get my final answer, I need to annex that 0 back on at the end. 250. 5 times 80. Again, I'm going to solve my basic fact by popping that 0 off. 5 times 8 is 40. And then to get my final answer, I pop that 0 back on to give me 400. So at this time, go ahead and pause that video to solve the last 5 up here, and then we'll check our work, and then I'll have you pause one more time at the end to solve these challenge problems. So go ahead and pause now, solve those 5, and meet me right back here. All right, let's take a look. I'm going to look at my basic fact, 9 times 3, which is 27, and then I'm going to annex that 0 back on at the end for a final answer of 270. Again, I have 4 times 2 as my basic fact, which is 8, and then I'm going to annex that 0 back on at the end to give me a total of 80. And finally, over here, I've got 9 and a 6. So I'm going to solve 9 times 6, which is going to give me 54. And then for my final answer, I annex that 0 on to give me a total of 540. Down here, 70 times 1. I already know using the identity property, it's going to give me 70, but we could still pop that off and do 7 times 1, and then at the end, annex that 0 back on to give me a total of 70. And then the last one over here, I can do 4 times 6 to get 24, and then annex our 0 on at the end to give me 240. So now take a look at these challenge. If you want to pause the video here to solve it, you can, and then we will meet back here to solve it together. All right, so take a look. Now my basic fact is going to be 5 times 5. And I know that is going to equal 25. And I actually had to pop off 2 zeros. So at the end, I'm going to annex on 2 zeros. And my answer to 500 times 5 is going to be 2,500. Go ahead and take a moment to try this last one on your own. We've got 2 zeros here again, so we're going to pop those off, solve our basic fact, and then annex those back on at the end. So 4 times 7 equals 28, and then I've got 2 zeros to pop back on. That's going to give me a total of 2,800. Those are really large facts that we're now able to solve because we know how to take off that 0 and then annex it back on at the end. So go ahead and take a moment if you need to check your work or finish up some problems, and then you are ready to move on. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day. See you soon.